This week, Poland reinstated controls at 52 border crossings with Germany in response to Berlin's tougher migration policy, which also includes border checks. Joining us with more on the EU's internal border checks and how they could affect the bloc is Deutsche Welle correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu in Berlin. Chiponda, thank you so much for joining us. How have the new border controls been received?
Well, Ruby, the response to Poland's move to reinstate controls at its borders with Germany is, of course, mixed. Now, there's those who feel that this is long overdue, and there are people who believe that this is an attempt by politicians to score points by appearing tougher on migration. Now, reinstating border controls is a trend that we are seeing across all of Europe, not just with Poland and Germany. And that is because migration is a hot-button issue, and also a major reason why populist parties and far-right parties are more popular across the continent. Now, that's why even moderate politicians have adopted tougher stances against migration. But of course, having these border checks within the EU is controversial. And that is why there are questions about the effectiveness of the controls themselves, whether enough migrants can be stopped at the borders, and if the cost is actually worth it.
What is the economic cost going to be?
Well, the additional security is one major cost. Of course, more people will be needed to carry out those controls. So there's more security officials and customs officials who are required at the borders. And then, of course, there's the longer commutes for more than 3 million Europeans who cross the border every day for work, to work in another country, because of course they also live in another country across the border. Now, these checks could of course also mean supply chain disruptions, and that will of course lead to economic stress for cross-border communities. Now, Europe's so-called Schengen area is actually a single market for 29 countries, and it is supposed to eliminate internal border checks for goods, services, labor, and capital. And that is why experts say that extended permanent checks could lead to higher prices, and of course they could also disrupt supply chains. And this is why there's of course major economic concerns about this. But of course it's not just about the economies of European countries, it's also about the future of the Schengen system itself and how that could affect the European Union.
Yes, Chiponda, does this risk unravelling Europe's Schengen system, which of course allows for the free movement of people and goods and services through countries?
Well, right now we have about a dozen European countries, so about a third of Schengen countries that have border checks in place. And it is, of course, worth noting that those Polish controls are in response to Germany's own border checks. Now, if these checks do remain in place, the Schengen system, which is an agreement among 29 countries, could, of course, be called into question. And that, in turn, could also undermine the legal integrity of other EU treaties. So the trust in the European project itself is actually at stake. And so this is not just about the Schengen system, it's also about the future of the European Union.
Big stakes indeed. Deutsche Welle correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu in Berlin, thank you so much. A Sydney councillor turned MAGA influencer